Jamie, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, but I must admit, the first thing that's caught my attention is the backdrops that both you have got compared to mine. So I've got my horrible kitchen, and you've got some amazing Wrexham memorabilia and merch. So I feel like I'm letting the side down straight away. That neon Wrexham sign, Ran, looks incredible. You're gonna have to tell me where you got that from.
That I don't know where it's from. My mom actually got it for me for Christmas or my birthday, one of those. And I just put on my Christmas list and birthday list, I just have Wrexham stuff. And so most of this is people going, okay, this says Wrexham. Here you go. And some from SJ too. Yeah.
You've got more stuff there than they've got in the club shop, that's for sure. So your sources are getting it from a good place, definitely. But no, I'm good. It's a pleasure to be talking to you both. I've been looking forward to this for a couple of weeks. So let's have a good chat about all things Wrexham.
Yes, and we have today again the wonderful SJ tuning in from Portland area. Big Wrexham supporter over here in America. We have Jamie from Eat More Chips. You've probably seen the flag. You've probably heard the podcast, and you've probably have seen them on the Twitter, the X, and the social media. For anybody that does not know who Jamie is, go and start listening to the podcast that they started this last season, and it is Eat More Chips. They have the legendary flag that goes with it. I'm not going to try to explain any of the background to the flag or anything because I'm sure I'm going to butcher the little bit of knowledge that I know. But Jamie, where does Eat More Chips come from? The name, the flag, etc.
Okay, so I can give you a very watered down history of it, but you would need my brother and podcast host Simon, or Welsh Techie as he calls himself, to give you a full in-depth history of it. If anybody hasn't listened to the pod, if you go back and listen to episode 1, both Simon and the other guy that's on the pod with us, Daz, they do a very good job of explaining the proper history of the flag. But basically, it's them, the flag, the history of the flag. I mean, it's 20 plus years old, the original flag now. And it was them guys that started it in when they were in college and university together. And as sort of adolescents can be silly, they just came up with this crazy concept. And at the time, it won't mean a lot. Probably, even if there's anybody watching this that's knows British football history, probably it will go over a lot of people's heads. But there was a TV program in the UK which ran for years and years and years called SoccerAM. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but the only way I can describe it is if you think of maybe something like Jay Leno or Letterman or something like that kind of talk show, but it was football orientated. And it ran for years and years and years. And anyway, and the reason I mention it is there was
cool.
It was brilliant for years and years and years. It had a bit of a cult following in the UK. It was everybody's sort of Saturday morning getting ready for the game in the afternoon. And it was for many years. It was brilliant. But like with most things on TV, it eventually sort of fizzled out as time went on. But many years ago, there was a silly segment they had on that program, which I can't explain it in great detail, but it was around one of the main presenters on the show. He was getting grief from his girlfriend about football, so they started this jokey campaign of Save Chip. His name was Chip, so it was Save Chip. So Simon and Daz used that, and then the fact that they were students on living off nothing more than chips, as in fries, chips. They came up with this crazy slogan: "This eat more chips, don't let salad win." Decided to put it on a Welsh flag and take it to Wales international games, and it's become a bit of a cult thing. It's in the Welsh international football scene. It's a very well known flag now, and Daz still has the original flag, which is, like I say, 20 plus years old now, and he still takes that to all home Wales games. So if you ever watch a home Wales game, you'll always see it on TV, because where he sits it's usually in the core. When one of the corners basically of the pitch, you'll see it there. So that's a very rubbish history of the flag, but basic history of the flag. And then the podcast really. So. As much as I can't take credit for the flag, I can take a bit of credit for the podcast. So, like you say, this is we started it nearly 12 months ago now, and it was something that I came up with the idea of, and I chatted to Simon, my brother, and obviously we're blessed as Wrexham fans with some great content. There's some phenomenal content creators doing their thing out there now. Obviously, you've got the in my opinion still. The biggest and the best is obviously Fearless and Rob Bryan Red. I think for me, those two guys as collectives, they're the kind of Sopranos of the Wrexham podcast world. They're at the head of the table as far as I'm concerned, and I still listen to them like everybody else does as fans. And obviously we've got so many others now. You've got your East Coast Ramble and Me the Wife and the Two Beards and this, you guys and this and lots of other people, Men in Blazers. Tommy Cowse has come along doing his Men in Blazers thing, which is fantastic. So we're really blessed. So I wanted to do, I would say me and my brother talk about Wrexham all the time and wanted to have a go at doing a podcast really. But we wanted to do something a bit different. What could we do to keep it connected to Wrexham, but something that was a little bit different. So that's when the Eat More Chips idea came along, and we thought we'll ask Daz to join us. So, and that's how it came about, really. So, Simon hosts it really as the main host, although Wrexham and Wales fan. I'm kind of there as the Wrexham element, and then Daz covers the Wales and more of the women's side than I do, and it seems to work quite well.
Yeah, and so the history with the flag is something that probably we have all seen it. There's a clip that you play at the beginning of the podcast, and that I believe there's video footage of it too, from a commentary from a particular match. What was that from?
Oh, so the clip that you hear at the beginning of the pod, so that's quite a famous Wales international football commentator called Ian Gwyn Hughes. And we actually had him as he was our very first guest on the pod, maybe episodes 2 and 3, I think he was on. Obviously, I think Simon did that interview, and he asked him about it and things like that. You have to forgive me; I can't remember for the life of me what game that was in, but it was that clip, and then obviously that was on TV as well. It was sort of camera panning around the crowd, and it happened to just pick up the flag, and obviously Ian saw it, and he read it out and chuckled to himself, because that's what a lot of people do. They see it, and it's a silly, it's a silly slogan, but it makes people smile. And there's actually a variation of the flag as well. Again, I think they have mentioned it in the pod early on, but there's actually a second flag in existence, and the second one is one that they had done for when they went to watch Wales play in a European competition in Russia. So there's a second flag that says "Eat more chips, don't let caviar win." So there's a second flag in existence. So there are two, but me and Simon are actually looking at the moment of trying to get a new one made, just a smaller version, because then we can take it to the racecourse with us. We can't take the original to the racecourse; it's just too big. It's too big to sort of hang up where we sit. So for next season, maybe I think hopefully we'll have a slightly smaller version that we'll be able to display when we're at the racecourse.
Yeah, and that's a good question, because I was wondering about what is the size requirements to bring something into the race course, if they limit you, or is there not a limit?
I dare say there probably is a limit, but I don't know. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but it's certainly, because I don't know if you've seen in recent home games, there seems to be a couple of new flags that have appeared. So there's one that started to come across on the Mull Road stand, which is a bit of a crowd surfing type of flag. It's a big one that covers lots of people, and it moves back and forward at the beginning of when the teams come out. And there's also another one that's appeared now at the tech end, which I've noticed, and they're big. They cover several people. So yeah, I think as long as it's obviously, it's not going to cause any harm to anybody, I think it'd be fine. It's just the issue for us is obviously we would want to sort of hang it probably behind where we sit. And like I say, the original is too big and probably too delicate. I think I think Daz and Simon will want to get it put in a museum at one day when it's threadbare and can't be hung anywhere else. But yeah, it would be fine to take in. It's just we haven't really got anywhere to put it. So yeah, that's
okay.
That's the thing.
What's the size? Do you know?
You're asking me questions. I feel underprepared here, Ran. You're asking me questions I don't know the answers to.
It's this many twice.
Yeah. It's. I would say if I was trying to put a quick estimate on it, I would say it's probably 3 meters long width-wise, and maybe meter and a half high. So it's a decent size. That's
a good size flag. Yeah.
So is that it's like one person tall and 2 people wide?
Yeah. So it's probably
if you lay them end to end.
Yes. Yeah. So do you know what? I'm just thinking now too. The last time I saw the flag was when the parade happened, the victory parade from last season. So obviously, Simon, my brother, lives in South Wales, so he travels up for the Wrexham games most weeks. Obviously, when we're at home, and when the parade was on, he brought the flag with him, and we took some pictures during the parade and things. And I'm just thinking now, that was the last time I've seen it. So it was actually, you saying it was probably, it's sort of up to your chin from the floor. And it is a good, it would take a good 3 or 4 people to hold it outright. So yeah, it's a decent size. It's a decent size. Yeah.
Wow.
Dang. We need to see that make its way over to the U.S. tour if at some point in time.
Yeah. I think if we're ever able to get over there for a US tour or TST or something like that, we definitely make sure we bring it with us. But yeah, they keep. Well, I know the original Daz keeps close guard on, because it's very sentimental to the two of them. It's lasted a long time, and it's followed them around some memorable matches. More so Wales than Wrexham, but yeah, it's like I say, it's just a bit of fun, and most people seem to find the humour in it.
Definitely.
So changing the flag when you went to see in Russia to caviar, if you brought it to the States, would you change it to say something else?
Well, there is actually, so me saying that there's 2 flags, there is actually a 3rd flag in existence. So,
get out of here.
Yeah, so this is basically, I would say that this is probably the first and only to date officially franchised Eat More Chips flag. So there's a Wrexham fan on Twitter, or X, Aaron his name is. I'm just trying to for the life of me think what his username is. I'm sure you guys have come across him, and he and his family. It was when the TST was. Oh no, it might have been the pre-season tour was on. He got in touch with us and he said, "Would you mind if we did an Eat More Chips?" And I think he got Don't Let Cheesesteak win when they were in Philly. I think possibly something like that. But if I'll see if I can find the picture later when we finish, then maybe send it to you. But yeah, it's obviously a much smaller version, and it's not to scale or anything. But we gave him permission to use it, and he to be fair, he took it to the game and he got a few pictures. It was great. So yeah, that's actually the first and only current franchised flag
iteration.
So yeah, I mean, if we ever get over to America, we'll definitely have to think of a slight variation. Although me and Simon came to Vegas in 2004. For just for a holiday. I'm thinking about it now. We actually I've got a photograph somewhere of us in the middle of the desert. We hired a car, drove into the middle of the desert, and we've got a photograph of us holding one of the flags. But I'm sure it's the caviar flag. It's not the original. I'm sure it is. I'll have to have a look. But anyway,
because the caviar would make more sense.
Yeah. It's nuts. But yeah, we'll definitely have to have an American variation if we ever come over.
Yeah, I like the idea that you're going to franchise them, and so I don't know what the opening price is, but for X amount of pounds, you can franchise your own flag. Make it your own. Yeah, I'm trying to think of Portland. I mean, we just have cactus out here in Phoenix Desert, so not much food products to associate with us. But maybe Portland. What do you guys have? Apples or something? I'm not sure.
I mean, my first thought is don't let rain win because it rains here so much. It's so wet all the time. But yeah, I don't know. We have like a lot of stuff that a lot of other places have, like tons of microbreweries. At one point, we had more breweries per capita than any other city in the world, and also more strip clubs per capita than anywhere in the world. But I want them to win, so that wouldn't work.
I was going to say I refuse to put either beer or strip clubs on a variation of the flag because I don't want those to win. No problem. Yeah.
It's
just that's why I went with salad. Rain. That's what we need to stop.
That's why I went with rain or vegans. There's a lot of vegans here. You can see. Don't let vegans win. Oh yeah, it's huge.
It's a good one.
Yeah, except for potatoes would be chips would be vegan. So I guess it depends. What you have with them. But they were strip club and rain were interesting food choices for Portland. I'm imagining that Portland is short on good food is my assumption, my takeaway from there.
We have a really good breakfast place that has the owner raises his own beef and has like steak and, for steak, but we call it steak and legs because you can go have breakfast with the ladies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, it's actually really good. I went there with my uncle.
As we do in America, is what we do.
Yeah. I went to the corner shops with my uncle, not to the strip club.
So speaking of humble beginnings, what a great segue. Hey, Jamie, where did your Wrexham voyage start? Where did your story start as far as either being going to the games or watching the games, watching the team, or even knowing about the team?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Wrexham. I grew up in Wrexham. I lived in Wrexham for a long time. I have to keep it quiet. You might have to bleep this out, but these days I actually live in Chester. I actually live across the border. But obviously still very much a Wrexham fan. But no, excuse me. I was raised and lived in Wrexham for a long time. It was my natural choice as a team to support. As with most. If you asked anybody of my age as they were growing up, as they were teenagers in school, they probably supported Wrexham and a Liverpool or a Man United as well, because in school that was the thing. I think my kind of my main Wrexham sort of history really starts back in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, early 2000s is my kind of main earliest memories of following Wrexham. I did go to some games before that with different family members. Got vague recollections of people like Joey Jones and Mickey Thomas and people like that playing. But my longest or my oldest memories of watching Wrexham is the team that consisted of people like Andy Morrell, Carlos Edwards, Lee Trundle, Darren Ferguson, people like that. That was, if you ask a lot of Wrexham fans prior to what we're experiencing now, that was probably our last golden generation, was that team. Absolutely phenomenal, some phenomenal players in that team. It was a joy to be able to go and watch them. For a long time I used to go in the Cop, or when it was the Cop, I used to go in there quite a few times with different family members and friends. And then when I got a season ticket in the Mould Road stand, so the newer of the stands basically. And I had a season ticket for about 12 years, I think it was. But then as time went on, daughter came along, family got, different family commitments, work commitments, and it just got to a point where I wasn't getting to many games, and I couldn't go very often. And I gave the season ticket up many moons ago because at the time it was easy to get a ticket anyway. So on the games that I could go to, I could just pay and go get in, no problem. And then, I would go to the odd game, but basically was just really following from a distance and following through with my brother. Obviously he like I say, he lives in South Wales, so we don't see each other, or we didn't see each other very often prior to getting back into to go into the Wrexham games week in, week out. But used to obviously talk to him about it because he's he always stayed in touch with it as well. But like with a lot of people locally and internationally, these last few years has really sort of lit the fire again. And we both of us have sort of made things have moved on a little bit. My daughter's a little bit older now. My family situation's changed, and although I still have work commitments on Saturdays, I'm able to get to a lot more games than I was. So a few years ago, when obviously the takeover happened and we could see things were ramping up, and say Simon was in a position to be able to commit to coming up more as well. He said to me, do you think, should we get season tickets again? And I was like, I said, I don't think I can commit to spending that money, because I don't think I'm going to be able to get to many games. And we had a long chat about it, and he said, well, there's going to be games I can't go to as well. So he said, yeah, you're probably right. I said, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll get one season ticket between us, and then when we can both go to a game, we'll just buy another ticket and happy days. But what we didn't foresee was the fact that a Wrexham ticket was going to become like Willy Wonka's golden ticket. So we have the same difficulties as lots and lots of other people are having, and have had for some time in getting tickets. And do you know what? If we're able to get one and we can go, brilliant. If we can't, we can't. So basically what we do is we have this one season ticket between us, and we share it. So we literally split the fixtures in half. I'll have a look at my work diary and things, and I'll say, I can definitely do those, I definitely can't do those, and then we just try and get a secondary ticket when we can. And we're not necessarily sitting together. Sometimes we're not able to sit together. But one of the other great things over the last couple of years as well is my now wife has become a Wrexham fan, as well. So it's been fantastic, because she's, I mean, it pains me to say that she was at the Notts County game yesterday, and I was in work, so she was there and I wasn't. So no, she loves it. She's really gotten into it. She's really gotten into following Wrexham, and it's been great, because for me it's something we can do together. And but she's becoming more of a diehard fan than I am, to be honest. So wow. It's a very it's a very difficult scenario with the tickets, but look, I wouldn't change it for the world, and I certainly won't complain about it. It is what it is, and we try and get to as many games as we can, and we'll go from there. But the last couple of years I've been quite fortunate. I mean, I got to pretty much every home game last year. This season I've missed a couple of games, but mainly because of work rather than not being able to get a ticket. We try to go to a couple of away games as well, but it's difficult. I see and see a lot of comment online about a lot of kind of hostility from some quarters, not by the majority, but there's a small minority. There's a bit of hostility towards new fans, or whatever fans you want to call it, that are now coming to games and everything else. And I see some crazy things about I was going away 15 years ago to Ebbsfleet on a Tuesday evening, and that's great. And if you can do that, and if I could do that, if I had the time and the free time to be able to do that, I'd go home and away. It's not possible for everybody to do that, and I think it doesn't matter where how you support the club, whether you go to one game or you go to every game. If you're based in the States, or you're based round the corner from the racecourse, if you support the club, then you're a supporter nonetheless, and that's the most important thing.
Just wondering, I guess, I'm guessing now, Russia would probably be the answer, but where's the furthest that you've taken the flag? Would that be Russia?
Probably Vegas. I think Vegas probably further away than Russia. I think it's been to quite a few European destinations, because, like I say, I think I know a long time ago, like I say, before children and work and family, when Simon and Daz were were a lot younger, because they're very old now. But when they were a lot younger, they used to go to all sorts of places following Wales around all sorts of crazy places in Europe. So it's been to lots of different destinations in Europe. But obviously, until Wales have only qualified for international tournaments in the last sort of few years. The last time they did that was in the 50s. So it's not very often that Wales were going further afield than anywhere in Europe anyway. So there's not been a cause for it. But I know they're both very keen for, because I think obviously we've got the Euros is this summer in Germany. And then I think in 2 years' time, the next World Cup is being shared with America, Mexico, and Canada, I think. So they're already sticking pins in maps, wanting to hoping and praying that Wales qualify for that tournament. And I think they're hoping to do some sort of summer expedition out there, which would be great. But I have to keep reminding them that obviously they've got to think about children, jobs, money. So we will see a long way to go.
The question on the other side of that was, when Wales played their friendly Gibraltar at the race course, what is the team that you think that has traveled the farthest that you've seen, that you've had the flag at? So, like, if Russia had come to the race course.
Yeah, I mean, it would. Yeah, I mean, Russia. I mean, it's a difficult question to answer, to be honest with you, because, like I say, the logistics of the flag for me is a tricky one, because I've only been in its presence a few times, as daft as it sounds. If it's kept under lock and key by the Brothers Grimm down there in South Wales. So it's not something I'm allowed near. I'd probably spill chocolate on it or something. So. Yeah.
No, I'm reading you loud and clear. And so this has been, Jamie, a great interview. Thanks for the time. We've got the flag coming on next. And we're just going to ask the flag a couple of questions about his personal experience.
I think you should, yeah.
Well, Jamie, with food being a regular theme, not only on the podcast, with the different transitions being equated to different types of food and restaurant verbiage, what is your go-to food? So is it chips, or is there a different go-to food for you?
Anything.
Anything.
No, I'm quite a big foodie. There's not much in the way of food that I don't like. I've got a very sweet tooth. I'm a very sweet tooth person. So for me, I'd always look at the desserts on a menu before I looked at anything else. That's just how I roll.
Yes. Yes.
But to like I say, to be honest with you, I'm quite open when it comes to food. I like Mexican food. I like Indian food, Chinese food. I honestly, but you can't. There's nothing much better than fish and chips. To bring it back. Purely back to the chips analogy. I mean, my brother. So my brother has a bit of a routine now. So obviously, like I say, he comes up for the Wrexham games on a Saturday or every other Saturday, whatever it is. And when I can do it, I'll go with him. But he tends to come up early, because it's his little time. He's got a young son. He's got a young son who he has to look after. He works from home, but he has to look after most of the week, because his wife works away. So it's quite full on for him during the week. So the Wrexham game on the Saturday for him is his little time to himself. So I think he's about 3.5 hours from Wrexham, so he leaves quite early, and he listens to all the pods in the car. He catches up on all the podcasts, all the other great podcasts, and listens to them. And he has a little routine. He gets to Wrexham more often than not. He'll pop to the cemetery where our mum is buried, and he'll put some flowers on her grave and stuff like that. And then he'll head into Wrexham, and there's a little chip shop, as we would call it, fish and chip shop. It's only a small place, but I will fight anybody who claims that there are better fish and chips anywhere in the world, because they are the best fish and chips in the world. And he makes a point of going there every Saturday that he comes for a game. And yeah, they, as far as nice food goes, they do take some beating. So if you, whenever you're next in Wrexham, you need to make sure you go and try it. It's F Jones's is the place. It's a small little place.
I'm coming in April.
Amazing.
Do I need a pen to write this down?
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I got a pen.
Yeah, so it's basically, it's called F Jones's Fish and Chips, and that's it. Simple as that. But if you Google map it, or I'll happily send you some directions. If you come into Wrexham, you have to go and try that out. I mean, we're quite lucky in Wrexham now, because obviously with everything that's gone over the last couple of years, the town, city, it'll always be a town to me, but the town is going through somewhat of a resurgence, and there's lots of nice places popping up now to eat and to drink and things. But yeah, that place will take some beating. So I would encourage you and anybody else to if you're ever in Wrexham, to go and try there. But you might have to fight my brother for it first. But yeah, definitely worth a visit.
Is that something that has been around for a while? Is that something you guys went to as kids too?
Yes, yeah, it is. I mean, again, he's what is he, 12 years older than me, so yeah, he was my tormentor when we were younger. To be honest with you, he drove me mad when we were younger. But yeah, there's a lot of kind of, it sounds ridiculous, but there's a lot of kind of sentiment around that the fish and chip shop and the little area around there. So what you see there today is very, very different to when we were young. You know, when we were young, it used to be the area just around the corner. It's now a shopping mall or shopping precinct. It used to be a big open space, and it was like a supermarket. And they used to have every Monday they used to have a big open market, so like a market stalls.
Oh,
and it was huge as far as the eye could see. And there used to be a little bench that used to sit above it, and you could see over the top. And we would sit there many a day. We'd get fish and chips, and we'd go and sit there, and we'd put the world to rights. And it's just, like I say, little memories, little nostalgic memories like that. And for him in particular, because he, he moved out of Wrexham a long time ago now. I think he's been quite open about it on different things, where, when he was in his early 20s, the opportunities, because he was in a theatre background, and the opportunities to get into that industry in North Wales and in Wrexham in particular, they were just non-existent. So he had to go down to South Wales, down to Cardiff, and then obviously his life then has gone off in a different direction. So for him, I think it's particularly nostalgic for him, because it brings back a lot of memories that have long passed. For me, I lived in Wrexham a lot longer, for a lot longer than he did afterwards. So, but yeah, it's great to do things like that. It's brilliant to do things like that. I mean, I love catching up with him. That's been one of the best things about this kind of resurgence for me personally in the last few years with Wrexham. One is the fact that like I say, my wife has gotten into it as well, so I get to share it with her. But it's the fact that I get to share time with my brother, because we are as much as I hated him when we were kids, as we got older, he is my best friend. He's my best mate, and I didn't see a lot of him outside of the football, because we just never really crossed paths. So the fact that we're now back in full swing into this football, following Wrexham again, it's great, because we get to catch up and and see each other and have a good chat, and wind each other up and make fun of each other, because we've always done that. And then this with the podcast, it's great. I mean, crikey, I speak to him more frequently now than I probably have done for the last 10 years, because I speak to him every week for the pod. So, but yeah,
that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, and not to even, there's no need to compare yourself to anybody else. Obviously there isn't a need for that, but you guys quickly came out of the gates with a very good, robust product. And I think one of the things that I have thoroughly enjoyed is the evolution of the content and the coverage of what you're covering has continued on, where you guys have gone more in depth into the women's game and talking more about that. And I think to an extent more than really anybody else does, as far as consistently and putting a spotlight. Where was the impetus in covering the women's game, providing that voice. Where did that all come from?
So this goes back to what I said before about when we originally came up with the idea, and we were talking about doing something. Obviously, the Wrexham men's senior team was very much at the forefront of my mind, because that's my main thing. But when we started talking about, yes, we were wanting to do a podcast or try doing a podcast, this is when we then started to talk about what could we do that's a little bit different. There's some fantastic pods. There was some fantastic pods already in place, all covering mainly the men's team, and all covering everyone doing a slightly different spin on it, which is great from different angles. And like I say, that the women's side of it just came up naturally in that conversation. And I have to be honest, for again, credit to Simon and Daz, really, because they're across the women's side of what's going on a lot more than I am. It's difficult for me, because like I said before, with life generally, trying to find the time to watch all these games is bloody difficult. So, I struggle sometimes to watch, most of the time to be able to watch the women's game that might be on a Sunday afternoon, in the UK. But to be fair, Daz and Simon, they both commit and watch it, and they've got a good understanding. They've got a good knowledge between them of the women's side of the game, and it's important, because I think in the last couple of years, one of the things that's massive testament to Rob and Ryan and Humphrey and everybody else that's involved with the club, they've done a phenomenal job of bringing the women's side of things along for the ride, and it's really important that they continue that as well. And it has got, the whole league and everything, it has got an awful long way to go to have the same sort of popularity and coverage and investment as the men's has got. But, small steps, and it's going in the right direction. And I think if we can shine a very small spotlight on it that helps in some way, then that's got to be a good thing. Because, for me and for us, there's the Wrexham women's team is just as much as part of the Wrexham story as the men's team, or the under-17s or the under-19s or whatever age it is. They're Wrexham FC players, AFC players, and why shouldn't they be talked about in the same with the same passion and given the same sort of spotlight? It was one of the things that for us we just thought we'd give a little bit more coverage to, because it was something that. Like you say, the other pods, whilst they do talk about the women's side, they maybe don't go into it as much as we do, and that's fine. That's not criticism at all. But yeah, it's one of our kind of USPs. We cover the men's, women's, and Wales, and that's where we're a little bit different to everybody else.
How do you feel? Have you heard about since Wrexham men's has been grandfathered into the EFL, but the women are in the Welsh league? There's kind of this, I don't know, rumor or idea that the women's team should be included in the English league for the women's English league. How do you feel about that? Because I would like to see how the development improved and how we could bring more players in. Yeah,
it's a fascinating question, a very interesting question. For me personally, I would kind of answer that with kind of what you just said about, and use that word development, which is quite an interesting way of putting it. I think at the moment you've got to remember where the Wrexham women's team has come from and where it is now in a very short space of time. So for me, I would, in an ideal world, I would like to see this without sounding disrespectful to the other teams in the Adran Premier. Wrexham are a big draw. They just, because it's of the name and everything connected to them, they're a big draw. I'm not saying they're the biggest team or the best team or anything like that. They're just a big draw. So for me personally, it would be nice to see over the next few years, hopefully Wrexham's profile as a club continue to grow. And then as part of that exposure through the Wrexham women's team will hopefully give more exposure, more interest, more investment in the Welsh Women's League, and hopefully we'll see that improve. However, if in a few years' time it doesn't seem to be progressing, it doesn't seem to be advancing, if Wrexham and Rob and Ryan in particular have got the aspirations for the women's team that I'm pretty sure they have, then I'm sure that conversation will have to be had about whether they should and need to make the move over to the WSL. Because whether we like it or not, the WSL, the Adran Premier, Welsh Adran Premier, and the WSL there is no comparison. They are miles away. I mean, you've got WSL games in the UK that are getting 45, 50,000 spectators going to watch. And the standard of the football is significantly, a big step. But you would expect that, because it's not just a case of saying, oh, they've got better players. They've got better everything. They've got investment. They've got much more structure. Like, you've got to remember, at the minute, Wrexham's women's team is still part-time, which is obviously a massive step forward to what it was, but still only semi-professional. We haven't, as a club, we haven't got our own training facilities or anything like that, a base camp, as it were. If you went and looked at, say, Man City or Man United or Arsenal women's teams in the WSL, I bet you if you looked at the infrastructure of those, they will have their own identity within their own infrastructure within the club, and it's going to take time. It's just going to take time. But to answer your question, in the short term, I'd like to see Wrexham stay in the Welsh Premier and hopefully help develop it and get more eyes and more interest in it and see the quality improve. But as time goes on, if that's not possible, then it may be something that has to be considered. If they want to get to where the club probably want them to be.
And piggybacking on the positivity of where it might go in a good direction and positive direction, let me throw a question at you. If we had the 100% health on every player on the squad, on the men's squad right now, and they were playing to their level, not to the greatest that they could ever be and the greatest match that they ever had, but at their level, at 100% health, who's in our starting lineup right now?
Crikey. That is a putting me on the spot question. Okay, so for me, it's a difficult one to answer, and I'll kind of explain why it's difficult to answer. Because if you'd have asked me this at the start of the season, then I would have, to give you an example, if we stick with Parky's 3-5-2, because as much as I talked on the pod about the fact that I don't disagree with that formation, but I do have issue from time to time that he won't deviate from it ever. I would like to see us have a plan B where we've got another option that we could deploy or we could try or we could change to. But look, he knows more about football than we ever, me and a lot of other people ever will. So we trust what he does, but it doesn't mean that you can't sort of be frustrated by it and comment on it. So if I look just at his 3-5-2 formation, if you asked me this at the start of the season, I would have said that our best choice 3 centre backs would have been Tozer, Hayden, and Tunnicliffe. That would have been my choice. Okay. However, asking it me today, I will give you a different answer, because I think Tom O'Connor has now, for me, turned into a brilliant left-sided centre-back. When we signed him and when he started playing for us, defensive midfielder was very much what I think he thought he was, but as was classified as. But for me now, he has converted himself, or Parky's helped him convert himself into a phenomenal central defender, certainly on a back three. And the reason why I like him so much is because he is a ball-playing centre-back. He's not just going to lump the ball forward. He because of his midfield background, he can get the ball down and he can look to bring the ball out or pass the ball forward through the midfield instead of just hoofing it forward. So if for the purposes of you asking me it today, obviously Arthur in goal. I hope, I pray to every god that there is that the club will do whatever they can to sign him. I'm sure they've probably already had conversations about it. I'm sure they've obviously already got a plan in place. Yeah. But Arthur seems to be a very intelligent and ambitious young man, and you can't blame him for that. And he's keeping his options open. So I think the only chance we've got of keeping hold of him is if we get promoted. And even then, I think it's a small chance, because the way he's performed for us this season, there will be lots of other clubs watching him. And the fact that he'll be out of contract from and a free agent, basically, he could probably, a championship club will probably throw a lot of money at him, and it'll be hard for him to turn down. So if he stays at Wrexham, for me, it would be a massive coup. we'll see. But for today, yeah, 100% Arthur in goal. I think my back three would probably be. I think I'd have O'Connell in the centre. I think he's the natural replacement for Tozer anyway. And although Tozer's been phenomenal for us, I think again. I prefer O'Connell's the type of player he is, so I'd have O'Connell in the middle, O'Connor on the left, and on the right side, you'd have to say, again, based on this season and certainly these last couple of months, you'd have to say it's hard not to pick Max. But you didn't ask me that. You asked me, if everyone's fit and everyone's playing for their ability. In that bracket, you'd have to have Hayden there for me, because a fully fit, fully functioning, fully flying Aaron Hayden is an absolute colossus in both boxes. So you'd have to have him. So yeah, that'd be my back three. I think on the right side, I'd go with Barney, because I just think he's been a little bit of a phenomenon since he's come in. He's massively improving the defensive side of his game. But going forward, he's exciting. He's electric, and he's what I would refer to as like an old-fashioned winger. Back in many years ago, you didn't get a lot of different formations in football. These days you see 3-5-2 and 4-3-3 and 4-2-3-1 and all these crazy formations. It used to just be 4-4-2. You'd have 4 defenders, 4 midfielders, and 2 strikers. And in that time, the 2 wide midfielders used to be fast wingers. They weren't required to defend. It was all about going forward. But obviously now this development of this wing back position, they're required to do both. And I think Barney, as he's improving his game defensively, but offensively he's brilliant. He reminds me so much of my favourite Wrexham player of all time, which is Carlos Edwards. If you've never seen any footage of Carlos, I'd encourage you to go onto YouTube, put his name in, and just try and find a bit of footage. He was a fantastic footballer. Really, really direct, really quick, tricky, and Barney reminds me of him. So I'd have Barney on the right, on the left. For me, as much as I love James McLean and I think he's been a great addition to the squad, personally I'd go with Mendy. For me, I think Mendy has got the ability, I think, to you might have heard people use the phrase "come with us on the journey." I think if we are possibly going to get to Championship, beyond maybe, I think Mendy's got the potential with coaching to go all the way. Whereas some other players in the squad, with the greatest respect, League Two is probably their limit. I think Mendy's got the potential. I mean, he's powerful, he's quick. I mean, he's unbelievable going forward. He's a lot better defensively than I think some people give him credit for. And it's tricky because McLean has been good for us. He has been very good for us, and like I say, a great addition to the squad. But for me, I'd go with Mendy.
Mendy magic. He's just got some Mendy magic.
Oh, he's a phenomenal athlete and a brilliant footballer, and it seems a genuine decent guy as well. If you listen to his backstory, he's come into professional football through quite an unorthodox route. So it's great to see that he's getting obviously international player now, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
In the centre, I'd go for George Evans as the defensive midfielder. For me, he is up there as one of Parky's best signings. Because he doesn't score goals and because he doesn't stop penalties and whatever else. Sometimes he goes a little bit under the radar, but I can't stress enough how good of a footballer he is. He is a phenomenal footballer. For me, George Evans, and I'd have Elliot Lee and Andy Cannon. I think Andy Cannon has become a better footballer since we've had George Evans in the team. I think George Evans playing has allowed Andy Cannon to be a better player than he was when he first joined us, and we're now starting to see the best of Andy Cannon. And then obviously Elliot Lee is. He's going through a tough time at the minute. He's going through a tough run of form. I don't think any Wrexham fan or any Elliot Lee fan would disagree with me when I say that. He's not been at his best in recent weeks, but it's just a spell. It's just a spell of iffy form. It won't be long, and he'll be back doing what he does best. And so for me, he's still up there probably as our player of the season so far. So he'd always be in the team. And then up top, obviously Mullin, 100% Mullin. The last spot, you know what, is a very difficult one because
a hard one.
it is very difficult. And do you know what? Maybe controversially, I go with Stephen Fletcher.
Okay.
And the only reason I go with Fletcher over Ollie is I just what we've seen of Fletch, and again, bear in mind that you caveated this with fully fit and fully in form. What you see of Fletch when he plays, every game he plays, you see a little flash in a game that just shows you how good of a footballer he actually was. You've got to remember that maybe 8-10 years ago, this was a guy that was playing in the Premier League and was probably at a market value of maybe 12 or 14, 15 million pounds. Now that ability never leaves a footballer. What does leave you is your physical ability, his legs and his the physical side of it, but it's the skill and his knowledge and his football brain that never leaves him. And you can see that when you watch him play. Some of the things he does on the football pitch are just unbelievably beyond League Two. So yeah, for me, I'd probably have him and Mullin, and that'd be based on our current squad and everybody fit and everybody informed. That's probably what I'd go with.
I approve.
That's a
team.
beautiful lineup. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, can't argue that at all. I mean, that's 2 in a row. So Spencer has shouted out Mindy, you've shouted out Mindy as the possibility. I mean, that's my fan favorite player just because of his journey, his ability to grow his game with the level that he goes to. It's almost like the goldfish where whatever size tank you put it in is what you're limited to growing to. Yeah. It's like Mindy has the pace, the speed, the work rate. His defensive game has just been growing, and it seems like he went from what started in the 9th tier. Was it Maidstone or something that he came in with? And or no, it was before Maidstone, and he started 9th tier and then has raised his game as he went up, and that's absolutely incredible. And especially if you're going to have a player that you have that knows the system with the manager, knows the team, and grows with you. Yeah.
Do you know what? Because it's fresh in my mind. Obviously, when we're recording this, yesterday was the Notts County game, which unfortunately I was working, so I didn't get to go to the game. But I watched the game this afternoon, and as we're talking about Mendy here, I thought his little cameo in that game perfectly epitomises what we're saying about him here. Because if you look, he came on in that game maybe with 12, 15 minutes to go. And he came on the right, which is not his position. And earlier in the season when he was asked to play on the right, he struggled a little bit. But if you watched how he played in that little cameo against Notts County, that just epitomises how good of a footballer he is and being able to develop his game. Because in that little 10, 15 minutes yesterday against Notts, he was brilliant in that little period that he came on the right side, which is not his position. And that shows you that that's a player that's got the ability to be able to progress their game and adapt and improve. And yeah, like I say, it's a tough one because McLean, we all love James McLean because of his character. He's an old-fashioned antagonist. He's the sort of player that I've seen a few over the years at different levels of football, and they're always characters that are remembered. And he's one of those players that if he's playing against you, you hate him. And you can see that by every opposing fan base that we play against, the amount of grief he gets, you hate him because he that's what he does. He antagonizes and he winds up everybody. But if he's in your team, you adore him. And that's what we see. I mean, the guy's fitness level, I mean, what is it? I think he's 35 now. The guy's fitness
37?
levels are... Yeah, is he 37? His
fitness levels, Fletcher's 37.
I think he's 34, 35. But his fitness levels are ridiculous. The quality on the ball of his ball delivery, so crossing in, set plays, corners, is unbelievable. Again, that's a sign of the quality he's got. What has disappeared for him is just that physicality. That unfortunately, just as a professional athlete, you are naturally going to lose as you get older. And I think he's been a phenomenal signing for us. And I think it's been a little bit of a masterstroke by Parky, really, because obviously he knows Mendy's the future, and and he's doing, certainly from the outside it appears, he's doing a very good job of managing the situation, because he's utilising James McLean for the brief time that he's got left in the game, because he's realistically, beyond this season, if we get promoted into League One, will he stay with us? I don't know. I'm not sure I can see him playing week in, week out in League One, but Mendy's got the potential to, for sure. Yeah.
Well, outside of that sad inevitable future for the positive side of promotion, let's switch up gears a little bit, because we've taken up so much of your time, more than we planned to.
No, don't worry, it's fine.
Let's look at the upcoming matches. If you want to say how you feel about the Tuesday-Saturday match.
Yeah. So obviously, as we're recording and talking now, we've got MK Dons coming up on Tuesday, so it's that 2 days, and then obviously Gillingham next Saturday. Two tough away games. I think I've heard a few people say in the last sort of couple of days that a week is a long time in football, and I think what we've seen in the last sort of 24, 48 hours epitomises that perfectly. A week ago, we got beat at home to Bradford, and to some people the world was ending, and that was it. And then you look now, we've gone away to Sutton and got a scrappy but important win. And then we've beat Notts County at home, and then all of a sudden everything's rosy again. So do you know what? That's just football. That is how football works. And like I said before, what you've seen and what we've witnessed from this Wrexham team over the last season and a half is not normal. What we saw last season is not normal. Winning the amount of games that we did, winning the amount of home games that we've won in the last 2 years, it is not normal. So we've massively kind of more than kind of buck the trend of what it's used to be like following Wrexham. But I think the last two results have been really important. I think the Sutton win was very important, scrappy win, but a really important win. And then the Notts County win was massive for many reasons. As well, the results around us, we've had a few situations like that this season where the results of the teams around us have kind of gone in our favour. Stockport lost, Mansfield lost, I think Crewe lost as well yesterday. So we're in an incredible position. But we can't get away from the fact that we have got two very difficult games coming up. It's a lot of football to play. I know these guys are professional athletes, but it doesn't matter. It's playing Saturday, Tuesday is a big ask, because it's physically demanding. Not only that, but you've got to consider travelling. MK Dons and Gillingham both quite significantly far from Wrexham. I'm going to guess that they'll be flying to both, so which obviously will help. But even that is they've still got to drive from Wrexham to Manchester, which is an hour, and then airport, plane, hotel. So the travelling is going to take it out of them as well. It's a difficult one because our as we well know, our away form has not been amazing this season, and it's definitely been our Achilles heel. I think for MK Dons, they are they're in form. They're very much an informed team. I think the one potential saving grace that we've got with MK Dons is normally any other stadium that we go to away from home, it's packed. The stadium is packed because we're a massive draw. As much as everybody, like I said before, everybody hates us, but everybody wants to come and watch when their team's playing Wrexham. And now you won't see that at MK Dons because MK Dons' stadium is massive. It is way too big for this league, and the sad thing is obviously this game's been rearranged. This was originally going to be a Saturday game, and I think because of our progress in the FA Cup, it had to be rearranged to a Tuesday night. But that's going to mean there'll be literally thousands of Wrexham fans that can't go now that would have gone if it had still been on the Saturday. So I think that might be one thing that might go in our favour is the fact that I don't think there'll be a particularly hostile atmosphere. So if we can get the ball down and play a bit of football, and go at them. I think we should go at teams more away from home, like we do sometimes at home. We don't do it always at home either, but I think if we go at them, go on the front foot and attack rather than sitting back and letting them attack us. I think on the pod, I think I predicted a 2-1 Wrexham win against MK Dons, so I'll stick with that. I think it'll be a tough, very tough game. I'd take a draw. If you offered me a draw, I'd take a draw, but I'm going to hope that we can sneak a 2-1 win. Gillingham, I've got this horrible feeling about Gillingham could potentially be a bit of a banana skin, and I don't know why. I wish I could say to you that it's because of this player or it's because of this event or something, but I just a gut feeling for some strange reason. I've got a funny feeling it might be a bit of a banana skin. So they're. I mean, I think they're mid-table now. They're sort of 10th or 11th, and I'll be honest, they've probably surprised most people. They've surprised me this year because I genuinely thought they'd be right at the top end of the table. I thought they'd be up there with us and Stockport fighting. They've had some quite big investment in their team, but when we played them at home and we beat them 2-0, we made them look very average. That was about as normal as a game as I've had. Normally at the racecourse, your heart rate's going like this, but that Gillingham game was about as normal a game as we've probably had for some time. I'm going to probably say a draw. I'm going to say a 1-1 draw for Gillingham. If we can go away and get a win there. I mean, these next. So what have we got? We've got MK Dons Tuesday, we've got Gillingham Saturday, and then next week we're back to I think we've got Tuesday, Saturday again. So I said on our pod, February is going to be a pretty decisive month, and I mean so far, obviously we've got over those 4 defeats on the bounce. So far we've come out of it and we've reacted to it well. So if we can try and maintain that over the next couple of games away from home. And worst case scenario, just avoid defeat. I think winning. Yes, we've got to win games is important, but just avoid defeat. I think, and then hopefully, our home form will hold out because that's what's kept us where we are is our ridiculous home form. I know, obviously, I know we lost to Bradford, but the amount of games and goals we've scored at home is crazy. So. Yeah, I'm hoping for a 2-1 win against MK Dons, and I'm going to say a 1-1 draw against Gillingham.
Okay, and is there any stakes? Is either one of those games must win, or like you said, just not lose? I
don't think we're at the stage yet of saying that they're must win games. I think there's still a lot of football to be played. The teams around us are dropping points as well. I think. If we turn the clock forward a week and God forbid, but we lose both games, I wouldn't say that, I still wouldn't say that's going to be a catastrophe, but that's going to put a little bit of pressure on because we haven't got a home game in between to try and, bridge the gap. So, I wouldn't say they're necessarily must win games, but avoiding defeat in both, I think, is quite important.
Okay.
That's the best way I can answer it.
Taking a draw, 1 point, that'd be like...
Yeah, I hate saying that because obviously you play football to win, whether you're home or away, you want to win, but you have to, again, the more you understand the game and the more that you follow how the game works and things like that, sometimes, you might have heard people making reference to things like a draw that feels like a win, and that is as daft as that sounds, that is actually quite a sensible way of sometimes summarising a draw, and it's just a defeat. It's just the defeat. It's not only impact the defeats have from the point of view that you pick no points up and potentially the teams around you can march ahead. It's the impact it has on the club. Obviously, as professional footballers, they hate to lose, and losing games is going to knock confidence. And obviously, as you will have witnessed yourself a couple of weeks ago when we lost those 4 games on the trot, what we seem to have now is a small minority element of a fan base whose heads seem to fall off if we lose a game. If we lose a couple of games in succession, you start getting a little bit of agitation in small parts of the fan base, but it spreads, and players are not the players and the staff are not they're not immune to what's online. I'm sure they read, not everything, but they're going to be reading a lot of stuff that's said online, and they're going to hear things and things like that. So a defeat has such a big knock-on effect to many things. It's not just a case of we lost that game, let's move on. As much as you tell yourself that, it doesn't sometimes work like that.
Yeah. Well, I can say personally, my therapist has me focus in on what I can change and accept the things that I can't. So my approach to the negativity and stuff is with the realism. Accept the stuff for what it is, but don't live there. Don't live in the past, and don't live there, and don't live in the future either. You've got to be able to. It's the same thing where if you have somebody that only complains, they're going to exhaust you. And although that's their opinion, and although that's maybe what they're thinking about and they're warranted for it, that's fine. But it still doesn't mean that person's exhausting to be around with somebody who's always complaining about everything. And then social media lets you turn up the volume on your complaints. You get now a crowd when your family or your friends were tired of listening to you. Now there's a crowd of other people that are like, I wish I would have said that. And I should have done that. That all being said, I want to hit you with a couple of rapid fire questions. There's only a few of them before we wrap up and get out of here.
Go for it.
There's this very first one, which is just sauce koch. What on the side? What is that?
Red sauce.
Red sauce.
So ketchup.
Ketchup, basically ketchup.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. So again, that is that a reference from the pod? Is it with Simon? When he at the beginning of the pod? Yeah. So sauce koch on the side is red sauce, so ketchup. Yeah. So it's to be honest with you, I think he's. I'm not sure why he put that in there, because he, excuse me, he would never put ketchup on his fish and chips, and I wouldn't really, because normally when you have fish and chips, you have a peas, or you have a curry or a gravy sauce with it anyway. So I don't know where he got that from, to be honest with you. Yeah, but sauce koch is red sauce ketchup.
All right. Also, who has the Stockport ticket at the end of the season? You? Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So when we sat down and we split the fixtures, let me think about this now. I think he had the first game of the season, and I think I had the last game of the season, and then we worked around it from there. Like I said before, we've been quite fortunate with getting tickets, the extra tickets, and like I say now, for a lot of the home games, it's not just looking for one ticket for me or him. I'm usually trying to get two, because, like I say, my wife comes with us most of the time as well now. So it's tricky, but we'll see. I mean, if worst case scenario, if it came to it and we literally only had our one ticket for the Stockport game, and if there was anything significant riding on it, I would certainly offer it to him. And the reason why I would offer it to him is because last year I was at the Notts County game when we beat them 3-2, and then we were both at Boreham Wood for the last game, which was great. But I had the Notts County ticket last year, so we'll see. I'm saying that now, but now I'm saying it out loud. I'm starting to regret saying it out loud. But,
we'll cut this part. This part will never see the light of day.
Officially, it's me, but we'll see. I just hope. I have to say, I just hope that there's nothing. There's nothing really significant riding on that day. I hope by the time we get to that game, both teams are guaranteed automatic promotion. It would be brilliant if that game came down to both teams are definitely getting promoted, winner takes the title. That'd be brilliant. Because it doesn't. Yes. It doesn't. As much as you'd want to win the title, it doesn't really matter. It's all about promotion. But I'd hate it to be a situation where we get to that game and we have to win to guarantee automatic promotion or something like that. That'd be horrible.
Yeah. The final wrap up question here is just looking to the future a little bit, with Kylian Mbappe agent coming forward saying that he will not re-sign the end of this season, and him not landing a team. I'm not saying that's the name that you have to pick, but who in this off season would you love to come join Wrexham for next season?
So, again, it's a very, very difficult question to answer, purely because there are so many footballers in the Championship and in League One that I don't know. I don't really follow as much as I am generally a football fan. Outside of Wrexham, I tend to only really watch kind of Premier League and Champions League games. I don't watch a lot of Championship with League One, so I'm not overly familiar with a lot of the players at that level. But to give you an answer, so that I'm giving you something, I'll give you two names. So one that I'd love to potentially see at Wrexham one day was mentioned recently during the transfer window, which is Charlie Savage. So he plays for Reading. Now, the reason why I say that is because he technically is a local lad. His dad and his family are from Wrexham. Although his dad never played for Wrexham, his dad was very much. I don't know if you know of or you've ever seen Robbie Savage, who's his dad. So the best way I can describe Robbie Savage is he was the James McLean of the time.
Okay.
Everybody hated him. He was an antagonist. He was a nightmare. But if he was in your team, you kind of loved him. He probably wasn't as gifted as he probably wasn't as good of a footballer as James McLean, if I'm being honest. But yeah. So Robbie Savage is his dad, local guy, never played for Wrexham. So Charlie Savage would be great because I think he's young. He's a Welsh international and he's a local lad. So again, I think he's got the potential that he could go through the leagues with us. I think he's playing in League One at the minute for Reading.
What position does he play?
So he's a central midfielder.
Okay.
I think technically you'd probably say he's probably a combination between George Evans and Andy Cannon. He could probably play a defensive midfield or he could play a forward, an offensive midfield position. But yeah, he's only a young lad. He's only 21, 22. He was a Manchester United player. He came through their academy. Okay. And he did make a couple of first team appearances for Man United, but then he realised that his first team opportunities at Man United were going to be fairly limited, so he went and moved to Reading, which is fair enough to him. But I think just for the apart from being a great player, there's lots of other little things that would be brilliant to see potentially one day him playing for Wrexham. Then the second one, the last one I'll give you is Arthur Okonkwo.
Oof.
For me, that would be a massive signing. And like I said before, it's going to take an awful lot for that deal to be done. I think it's going to take an awful lot. But I think if the club are going to, at the end of the day, the club aren't going to have to pay a fee for him because he's going to be a free agent. But what the club probably will have to do is they'll have to break their wage structure for him, because with the best will in the world, the kind of money he's going to be able to command from the likes of a Championship club would be significantly more than probably we're paying our top players now. But if you're going to break your wage structure for a player, then that's the kind of player that you want to do it for, because that is somebody that potentially could be with us for the next 5-6 years. In all honesty, if he keeps developing like he potentially can, he will go on from us anyway. He will 3-4 seasons time. He depending on where we're at, if we're maybe still in League One or if we got to the Championship, he might have developed to a level where he's now Premier League level. So that's how it works. But if you've got him on a long-term contract, if you sign him up to say a 4-year contract, and he plays for 2 years for Wrexham, and then he's absolutely out of this world, and then a Premier League club comes along and says we want to buy him. Okay, it would be devastating to lose him, but you're going to get a massive fee for him, and that's what you need. You need tangible assets. Your players, unfortunately, I know it sounds very impersonal, but they need to be assets. They need to be you need to also think about kind of resale values and things on players, because that's just how football works.
So is the dating world of football. It's a fickle mistress. She is. Well, Jamie, thanks so much for coming and spending your time with us, blessing us with the knowledge. I'm going to go through a few of the things that I got to learn today. One of them was, if you are going into Wrexham, you need to go to F. Jones Fish and Chips is where you need to go. I don't know if the little lookout still exists so that you you and your brother can still go and see? Or
unfortunately, that's not there anymore. But yeah, the fish and chip shop is definitely there. And if I'm gonna start sending floods of American fans as they come over to watch the game to them, I'm gonna have to maybe contact them and start to get some commission out of them. Or something.
Get a little bit of that. Yeah. Also learn that you had the killer instinct of choosing the most pivotal possible game for the end of the season, securing Stockport's game for the season pass. So way to go for you. I also learned that you can make a flag that's too big and you need alternates just in case. But if your idea is good enough, you can start franchising them out. And, there's that.
Yeah. Drop us a message.
Well, again, thanks so much for coming on, spending your time.
My pleasure.
Everybody, they can find you on X, Twitter X, your podcast on podcasts.
Yeah. So the main, I mean, we are on other social platforms, but to be honest with you, we don't post too much on there. The main one is Twitter or X, and even though the podcast is the Eat More Chips podcast, the Twitter or X handle is Tweet More Chips, so it's at Tweet More Chips.
So clever.
But that existed before the podcast. That was another reason why we called the podcast the Eat More Chips pod, because Daz had already created Tweet More Chips, and he already had it, so that's why we used that. But yeah, if you search for either of those, you should find us. And then the podcast is on Spotify, Apple, and I don't know any other platforms where you can get podcasts. I think you can get it on there. But yeah, the more give it a listen. It's unfortunately, I say unfortunately that some of the episodes do go on. They are a bit long, some of them, but that's just we. Just because we waffle on sometimes, but if you're going for a long run or a long walk, or you've got a long drive or something, excuse me, give us a listen, and we try our best.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks so much. Well, we'll link that into the description as well. SJ, what do the people have to do at the end of this episode?
Oh yeah, so like and subscribe, and we'll put up a Eat More Chips podcast. You don't have the YouTube. Well, we'll put the description in at the bottom, and link another video here that has something to do with you guys.
It'll be a documentary on French fries. Yeah.
That's it.
Throw an emoji of the fries emoji if you made it this far to the end and stuck with all of us to the end. Go ahead and put that non-branded McDonald's French fry emoji inside there.
Chips. It was so nice to meet you. I really appreciate all your information and the questions, like getting that insight from somebody that's watched for so long. It's great.
Hey, we were all new fans once, so look, there's no such thing as a silly question. So if you've ever got any questions, just ask away.
Thanks, Jamie. Absolute pleasure. And as we always say, up the town.
Up the town.